Now tuned into the greatest.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The best sports podcast there is.
Yes, sir. You heard it first. The best sports podcast there is. Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson. Thank you for tuning in all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. Now, we got a great episode for you here today on April 28th, 2022. But before we talk about all the things we're going to touch on, you know I like to kick it off with some news. So that's exactly where we're running to right now. Let's get into the news. Now, starting off with Ja Morant and the Grizzlies. Memphis Grizzlies Ja Morant wins the Most Improved Player of the Year award this season. So congrats to Ja Morant. He's been doing this thing. I don't necessarily agree that he should have won this particular award, but you know, hey, go off, Ja Morant. Congratulations to you. The Boston Celtics, they're the first team to advance to the second round this season as they complete the sweep against the Brooklyn Nets, winning the series 4-0. The Boston Celtics will play the Milwaukee Bucks in the conference semifinals, and that's the team who ended up ending the Chicago Bulls season 4-1. The Miami Heat, they were able to send the Atlanta Hawks back to Atlanta for good as they closed out the series in Game 5. Miami will advance to the conference semifinals in round 2 and play either the Philadelphia 76ers or the Toronto Raptors. The Golden State Warriors advanced to the second round as well after defeating the Denver Nuggets 4-1 in the series. They'll take on the winner of the Memphis Grizzlies or the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right. Now, so the Celtics, they swept their way into the second round here. And you know, the Bucks, they only lost one game in the second round. So both teams, now they have to play each other. They're very versatile. And it's going to be interesting to see what and how these teams play against each other come game 1. So right off the bat, of course, obviously everyone wants to know which team is going to win. Who do you have winning? Which team do you think has an edge? Now, if you ask me, I'm going with the Boston Celtics. I'm going with the Boston Celtics. I'm not a Boston fan or anything. I'm not really a fan of either of these teams. My team is the Pistons, but that's besides the point. But I'm going with the Celtics. And it's ultimately, I have a fair shot with the Bucks, so I'm not completely against the Bucks. I can't really predict any of the particular games that it will go to. So to be safe, I'm saying Celtics in 7, just because this series ultimately can go either way. I'm not mad at anyone who chooses to pick the Bucks winning this series because they can do so. They have the team, they have the depth to do so. And ultimately, this series is really just going to come down to the simple and tedious things in each game. Not just game 1, not just game 2, game 3, how many ever games it goes. It's going to come down to the tedious things, the free throws, who's in foul trouble, was his toe behind the line, is he taking good shots, is he making open shots, are they playing hard, are they jumping, diving for out of bounds balls or loose balls, whatever the case is, because they're so evenly matched. Both teams, they can adjust. They have big lineups. They have small lineups. They have depth in their bench. They have depth in their starters. This is a evenly matched team. This is an evenly matched series, and however you want to put it. So I'm not mad at any favorites, but just everything about this series really leads me to thinking the Boston Celtics will win, besides that one outlying factor. It's that one factor, and you know what it is. Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's the only reason you know you can't count the Bucks out, because he's more than enough to come in and F up the party if he really was on that. And Giannis, he's not that guy who's gonna play reserved. Giannis is coming at you full speed every time, trying to make sure he can score the ball, and it's literally nothing you can do to slow him down, which makes it so tough for anyone to bet against him and go against his team. You clog up the paint, doesn't matter. He's still going to get his buckets. You try and double team him, he can still get his buckets, but he's a smart player. He'll find the open man, whether he's swarmed or not. He's a guaranteed 30-piece. He's a guaranteed 30-piece, and there's no doubt about it. So it'll be interesting to see the type of adjustments the Celtics can do and the adjustments they make to Giannis or his teammates in game 1 and so on. Now, here's where it hurts Milwaukee, I will say, because Now, Milwaukee, they're still missing Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton is huge for the Bucks. We've seen him step up year after year and elevate his game year after year, as well as Giannis. And last year, he stepped up in big moments, times where Giannis really needed that help. And obviously, they got the job done. But Chris Middleton is still injured. He has an MCL sprain in his knee, and he possibly may not play this entire series. So that changes it, and he gives teams trouble when he's on the floor. So not having Chris Middleton, which may be the second leading scorer, you'll have to fact check that one. But I think he's the second leading scorer on the Milwaukee Bucks, if not the first. He is a huge threat, and that's one less person the Celtics have to worry about. Now, we know the Celtics play great defense. We've been talking about that literally from the start to the finish of the season until present moment. We've been talking about that forever. But not only can they play defense, they're really good at playing one-on-one defense and help defense with the team. That's what's huge. They have their perimeter stoppers. They have their paint defenders who can stop. But most of all, they don't let that isolate them into, all right, you got to guard him and lock him up. They come together and say, we have to lock him up, or we have to stop him from scoring. We have to bring the pressure and make the shots tough for him to take. That's going to be huge here. So now I'm thinking, okay, will the Celtics force Giannis to get the ball out of his hands? As they did to Kevin Durant in some of the games. I don't want to compare it to that series because they're two different players, but will they force Giannis to get the ball and depend on his teammates more in order to win the game? Or will they let him play ball, let Al Horford, go man to man with a little bit of help? I wouldn't advise that, but I mean, it's possible. So it's going to be great to watch this game one. And my last point here actually is there are ways the Bucks can win. The Bucks have multiple advantages as well, so I don't want to discredit that. But a few ways I see the Bucks winning this series is if the role players, they continue to step up as they have been without Chris Middleton, and they're still aggressive and they're still making their open shots. That's going to be huge because at that point, if you're the Celtics, you almost have to man up and focus on rotations if you're going to play help defense. But other than that, Giannis is going to have to give just about 40 points in almost every game if his teammates is inconsistent. If they're not making shots and they're not helping him out, Giannis is going to have to go for about 40 each game. and to win the series, I think it's going to have to be a little bit of both in each game of this series. But it's going to be great. The series actually starts this Sunday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So it's going to be great to watch. Now, let's go ahead and run it back to some news. And we're going to take a quick break first, and then we'll hit memory lane. And from there, we'll jump into the news. So right now, let's go ahead and jump into our quick break. Now, just because you're busy doesn't mean you got to be stressed. I'm crazy busy right there with you, but it can be easier. Next time you're on a run, just make it more fun and listen to The Run with Manny Wilson.
Memory lane.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go ahead and take this trip down memory lane. So today we go all the way back to 2004. December 10th, 2004, the San Antonio Spurs played the Houston Rockets at home, and we witnessed one of the greatest things we got to witness in a long time. But who is it? It can't be Kobe. Kobe didn't play for the Rockets. I thought it would be a Bron moment, maybe a Mike moment. No, that's the wrong time. This is from Tracy McGrady, one of the greatest two guards to do it, the only player to give us 13 points in 33 seconds. So let's get it, man. So starting from 1 minute left in the ball game, the Houston Rockets trailed the San Antonio Spurs by 10 points in the fourth quarter. Score was 74-64. Rockets had possession with a minute left. Yao Ming, he ended up putting up a bucket after a miss, got the rebound, put up a dunk, and now they're down 8, 74-66. Spurs go ahead, inbound the ball. It's stolen by Scott Padgett on the Houston Rockets. He takes a few dribbles right, makes a layup. Now they're only down 6 points, 74-68. So Spurs inbound the ball again, and Rockets foul as they have to. Spurs, of course, make both free throws, putting them back up 8 points with 44 seconds left. 76-68. Now here's where it gets interesting because Spurs still have the lead, but it's Rockets possession. So Rockets, they inbound the ball. T-Max fights through a full court press, takes on the screen, sees the switch and pulls up for a three, knocks it down in the defender's face. Boom, take three, 76-71. Spurs lead, but the Rockets are only down 5 now, 76-71, 35 seconds left. Rockets, they foul as they have to, and San Antonio's being a good ball team, makes both free throws. Now the score is back to 78-71 with about 31 seconds left. Now Rockets have the ball and they inbound the ball, but T-Mac, he dribbles, picks up at half court by Bruce Bowen, takes a screen by Yao Ming, goes to the right, pump fakes, get Tim Duncan in the air, draws the foul and knocks down the three all at once. All at once. This play here ended up being a 4-point play. Now score is 78-75. Spurs still have the lead, but they're only up 3 points with 24 seconds left. Now Spurs, they get back to the line because the Rockets have to foul because they have no other choice. It's late game. They need to stop the clock. It's Tim Duncan. He's at the line. He takes care of business, knocks both of them down, scores 80-75 with the Spurs lead. Now Houston, they takes the ball out at half court with about 16 seconds left. So they inbound the ball. T-Mac catches a high pass over Tony Parker and Bruce Bowen at the top of the key. Tony Parker runs back to his open man because he doesn't want the pass to get thrown to him. T-Mac takes about 4 dribbles to the right, pulls up, knocks down another three, and oh my goodness. So now stick with me here. Stick with me because the score is now 78-80 points and the Spurs lead by 10 or Spurs lead by 2 with 10 seconds left in the ball game. And Spurs, they're doing their thing. This is a clutch time of the ball game. They're knocking down free throws that they need to make, but Rockets, they just won't quit. They won't quit. So things are about to heat up even more, but let's jump into it. So the Spurs, they have the ball. They have possession and they're inbounding the ball. They choose to inbound the ball at half court on their end. So they inbound the ball. The pass gets thrown to Devin Brown on the San Antonio Spurs. He gets double teamed, loses the ball, and T-Max gets the steal. T-Mac picks it up, pushes it down the floor, swerves a little to the left at the top of the arc on the three-point line, pulls up over Tony Parker and Brent Barry, and money. He knocks it down, and now the Houston Rockets take the lead 81-80 with 1.7 seconds left remaining on the clock. Now the Spurs, they inbound the ball, and they have no other choice but to throw up a full court heave. It's an air ball, of course, and that is the ball game. What a great game. And a great comeback and a last-minute comeback led by Tracy McGrady, one of the greatest shooting guards to play in that era. So, okay, man, it is an all-time performance. You can look it up. You can Google it. You can search it on YouTube, and you'll see that amazing clip of when Tracy McGrady carried the Houston Rockets back and winning the game at home. People ain't got fight like that no more, I tell you. But I'm about to lose my voice, so we're going to go ahead and jump back into some news. Let's do it. All right, let's run back into some news that we have here. So Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat were both fined $15,000 each for an obscene gesture in Game 5. Late in the second quarter during a 10-0 run, Jimmy Butler made a thrusting motion with his hips to celebrate. The Miami Heat later posted the video of Jimmy Butler's gesture on the team's social media account, which led to a fine for Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat organization. Now, Nikola Jokic says he's open to signing a Supermax deal for his next contract if the offer is on the table. Does that mean it has to be with the Denver Nuggets or any other team? And moving to the NFL draft starts tonight. The draft will be from today, April 28th, all the way until Saturday, April 30th. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll jump back into our other topic. We have Steve Nash coming up. Now, the Brooklyn Nets said they're not going to go ahead and get him off the team as a head coach. They still want him there, so we'll touch on that in just a second.
Now tuned into the greatest.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The Run, the Manny Wilson podcast.
The best sports podcast there is.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson. Welcome back to the best sports podcast there is, all the way from Detroit to Chicago, to your speakers and headphones. Now, as I mentioned before, the Brooklyn Nets, they were eliminated. They were swept, actually, but it's rumored that head coach Steve Nash will still likely return as head coach, despite being swept. So the question lies here is, should the Nets head coach be fired, or should they look for someone else? Should they keep him? We don't know what they're going to do. My question and my answer is, no, they should not fire him. But however, the clock is ticking and the seat is getting warmer and warmer. I tell you, the seat is getting warmer because there's some questionable things I saw from head coach Steve Nash there. He wasn't necessarily utilizing his personnel the best. It was no reason Blake Griffin was sitting out all season in the playoffs after the performance he was putting on the brink of elimination. And when it came down to seeing him cook up an offensive or a game plan to actually pull the series out, I didn't see too much from him. So, his adjustments that were made were just a little questionable for me. Now, however, I will say Steve Nash, he does deserve a fair shot. I don't think they should call quits on him because he never really got a full shot. I mean, after watching how things tragically played out this season, it don't seem like they truly had enough on the team to come together and stay solid and establish something solid. When you look at Kyrie Irving, he was playing part-time basketball just about the whole season. He only played 29 games out of the 82 games in the season. Durant only played 55 games out of the 82 season, and together they played 17 games together, excluding the playoffs. So it probably wasn't much to adjust for Kevin Durant and Kyrie to play together because they're close friends. They know each other. But what about the other people who don't play with them all the time, or the people who may not be as close? You go from touching the ball every game and touching the ball game after game to barely even playing or barely even touching the ball when Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving is present. That's a huge difference. And also you had James Harden there playing for a minute. We know James Harden can be ball dominant as well. So you got players who go from playing one specific role 3 games straight to not even seeing the floor, or he goes from being the offensive leader on the court for maybe 2 months straight to, okay, go stand in the corner or run around and do this while KD or Kyrie operates. So, I get it. It's good that the players can adapt and they're forced to play certain roles, but ultimately that leaves them curious of what role they actually have on the team. They will never know what role they actually have and how they actually fit on that team. They have no actual identity, and that's where it ultimately comes down. That was one of the largest problems for the Nets this season, is because there were so many different adjustments having to be made. And yes, they were able to still win basic ball games, but when it came time where the pressure hit them and they needed to cook something up, it was dysfunctional. It was dysfunctional. Steve Nash didn't know what to do, clearly. It seemed like he forgot half of his personnel that he had on the team. The role players, they were still struggling, trying to figure out what role they needed to play to best fit the team. And now that they were a healthy team, or partially healthy, because you still had a couple of players out there, a lot of people still did not know their true identity to the team. And that is really the main thing. So it's difficult to blame head coach Steve Nash for that because, it's hard for him to get the picture. Now, I will say he is definitely in a hot seat. I say he should not be fired because of this, but he has to win every game next season. Every game is a crucial point in this decision for him to either be fired or to be staying head coach. If I was the GM or if I was deciding if we're going to keep Steve Nash or not, this is crucial. This is absolutely crucial because you don't want a repeat of the same thing. And again, a lot of unfortunate circumstances for them, but you know, Steve Nash, every game has to be assessed. It has to be assessed in order for the Nets to go on and have some sort of improvement from next season. All right. Now, that is all we have for today. And I appreciate you kicking it with me for such a good amount of time. I think our episode today was just a little bit longer. But you know, man, I appreciate it. Send this to a friend, send it to a family member, a cousin, someone who's a fan of sports, someone who's a fan of basketball. Go ahead and share it. Don't be shy with that. I promise you they won't mind if you say, hey, check out this podcast that I listened to. It's really good. It made me think of you. So go ahead and send that out, and be sure to follow us on Instagram as well at The Run Podcast. You can follow my individual page also and see what I'm up to on days I'm not podcasting, even though that's mostly what I'm doing all the time. But you can check me out on Instagram as well at I am Manny Wilson. But from there, go ahead and bang those follows, and from there we'll be back next week, and so on and so on and so on.